Well, you see, that's very interesting. That poor old Lord Snowdon has popped his clogs, and...
well, excuse me. That's not really the right terminology for somebody who's passed away.
No, well, look.
I mean, you're not a tabloid newsroom now.
No, you're absolutely right.
Show a bit of compassion.
A bit of compassion,
a bit of respect.
No
some respect.
But, yeah, I got respect on my radar. But, I worked with Lord Snowdon. Now, you might say...
He must have been delighted.
Yeah, exactly. You might say...
Well, so here's the duo from the Daily Express who are going to interview you. Lord Snowdon.
Yeah.
And this other little short bloke that's with him called Mike Parry.
No.
From Chester.
No, it didn't quite work like that. Lord Snowdon was on the periphery of the royal family because, of course, he married Princess Margaret.
Well, he was in the royal family.
Well, he was a hanger-on to the royal family, if you see what I mean.
Well, you might as well say the Duke of Edinburgh's hanging on.
No, but I mean, he's at least proved himself over years as a consort to the Queen, you know what I mean? But no, it's unfair. I should not call him a hanger-on. He married into the royal family. He married Princess Margaret. According to a lot of the obituaries I've read this morning, he was, a bit of a lad.
Yes, well, certainly he had an eye for the ladies. I think
he had a Rogerising, roving eye.
You're not allowed to say that this time.
No.
It's like the watershed is so far away that you can't even see it.
Eh?
The watershed. The watershed which allows you to use that kind of language.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, sorry.
After 9 p.m.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So anyway, what happens is, Charles marries Diana.
Yeah.
And I've told you how I covered that wedding down in London, but the next thing I know,
No, you haven't actually, but I'm not interested.
No, okay, next thing I know, I'm up in Rill.
Yeah.
Because the first public engagement that Charles and Diana ever did was a tour of North Wales.
Oh, so that would have been great, 'cause that's your manor, isn't it?
Well, bearing in mind that Prince Charles was the Prince of Wales.
Indeed.
You see what I mean? And by the way, in a minute, we're going to talk about Diego Costa, Chelsea,
Yeah.
why I think FIFA should ban players going to China.
You're way
on
off on that,
huge
by the way.
sums of money.
You're way off on that.
But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Twitter has already erupted with that ludicrous statement of yours that we should somehow stop the free market. You're supposed to be free marketeer.
FIFA have got to stop some of the world's best players being sucked into China, or else football's ruined.
No, rubbish.
Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. The point is with Lord Snowdon. So, there I am in the best hotel in
Why
Rill.
don't you just move the Premier League to China? Play it there.
Well, I mean, that you may not be wrong.
Happened.
You may not be wrong. In the sense that the Chinese might have that plan already on a bit of blue paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a blueprint, so to speak. So anyway,
I don't think blueprints are actually on blue paper, by the way.
That's why they're called blueprints.
No, they're not.
They were drawn with blue crayon. That's why they're called blueprints.
Blue crayon?
Yes.
Well, they're not on blue paper, though, are they?
The blue crayon used to design the hulls of ships and all that. That's why it was called the blueprint.
It was not crayon.
It was a crayon.
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, I'll get back to that in a minute. The point of the story is that, so there we are in Rill. Now, in those days, newspapers actually used to look after their top reporters like me and stay in the best hotels. Now, the best hotel in Rill...
What's the best hotel in Rill?
Exactly. It's not exactly Park Lane, London, but it's nevertheless...
Not the Dorchester, is it?
It's not the Dorchester.
It'd be like that place you took me to in Rugby.
That's right.
Didn't have a bar.
Yeah, the Grosvenor.
Or the Adelphi, where you're not allowed in after midnight.
That's right.
Unless you've got a pass.
It was on that sort of range of hotels. You're absolutely right. But anyway, so what happens is the day's over. Done all the words and the pictures, all gone. And it's one of those stories where you're not doorstepping anything, so nothing can really happen in the evening. You know what I mean? Right. Tomorrow she does another engagement. So anyway, we'll get down in the bar.
Didn't you have to hang around and see what she got up to after hours, as it were?
No, because in those days, she and Charles were then going to Carnarvon Castle for a dinner, which was covered by somebody else in Carnarvon. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're all in the bar having a few
So you're straight down on the lash then?
Oh, on the lash, absolutely. Suddenly to be joined by this extremely debonair chap in a blazer and a cravat, and grey slacks, Hello, chaps. And I'd never met the guy before, and I said...
was he Lord Snowdon then?
Yes, but he had his working name, Tony Armstrong-Jones.
Yes.
So
you call him Tony?
Well, I didn't know what to call him, so hello, chaps, mind if I join you? So I said, you're, yes, that's right, Snowdon, just call me Tony. Yeah, it was like that.
Because a lot of them were with these one-word things, wasn't it? It was like Downing. Well, and he wanted to be called Snowdon.
No, that's a better story, I'll tell you in a minute. But anyway...
No, we know that one.
Yeah, he says, I'm Snowdon. I said, okay. So anyway, there's about 7 of us, right? So, of course, I immediately stepped forward and said, Tony, patting me on the shoulder, what can I get you? Such a Dubonnet and, lemonade or something. Yeah, okay, fine, get you one of those. So then, another lad's bought a drink, another lad's bought a drink. Anyway, we'd gone about 10 rounds, and it came to my attention that old Tony, Snowdon, hadn't actually bought a round.
Right.
So, we were all completely bladerated. So I said, I tell you what, Tony, and I slapped him a bit harder on the shoulder, I tell you what, mate, it's your round. He said, what?
He probably didn't know what you were talking about.
He didn't have a clue. I said, it's your round. He said, I beg your pardon? I said, look, you've been drinking with us the last 3 hours. I said, everybody just brought you a drink. She said, the only person who brought a drink down here, Snowdon, is you. Oh, what now? Put your hand in your pocket. And he said, well, there wouldn't be any point, actually. I said, what do you mean? He said, I don't carry money. I said, what? He said, I'm sorry, what do you expect me to do?
Right.
And I said, well, I expect you to buy us all a drink. He said, I'd love to, but I'm afraid I can't.
Didn't he have a checkbook with him?
Hang on. I said, well, put it on your room then, because you stay in the same hotel. He said, I beg your pardon, sir. I have never indulged in credit in my life, and I never will. And he put his glass down and walked out.
Wow.
And that was it. Yeah, he took 10 drinks and we never got a drink back from it.
And who was he working for?
He was working for himself, because he was doing a portfolio, you know, a private collection of pictures for the Queen, I think, and they're all circles and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think the Times actually used one of his pictures as a front page one the following morning, but that was by commission from them, you know what I mean?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I was just reading some of the obits actually myself this morning, and apparently he once claimed to have driven from Kensington Palace to Windsor Castle in 12 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad, is it?
Well, on a motorbike.
I don't know if he's on a motorbike.
Yeah, well, that was in the days when...
That's going pretty quick. That was in the days before there was mass congestion in West London.
There was hardly any traffic.
Yeah.
But, no, they all make...
It takes 12 minutes to get down Kensington High Street now.
You know, there's a load of old wink, 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 you know, nudge, nudge. It was wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Wink, 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 wink. What is that? Wink, 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 wink.
Yeah. You know, it's all, you know, all coded language.
Yeah.
Oh, he was one for the ladies and all that kind of stuff. In fact, they had, apparently, the most dysfunctional marriage in history.
Yeah.
And
well, when he drove her into the arms of Roddy Llewellyn.
Yes, that's right. Princess Margaret loved it. I mean, Princess Margaret was just as dysfunctional, because we did the opening of a factory in Burnley, and
she was rather fond of her gin, wasn't she?
Well, this is a great point, because before coming to Burnley...
You're just going to slaughter everybody who's passed away, is that what you're going to do?
Not at all, not at all.
Shocking.
We're going to be talking about Diego Costa and China
can we
in a
get
minute.
to that, please?
Yeah, in a sec.
Yeah.
But Princess Margaret...
Spurs are playing at 12:30.
I know that, yeah.
Are we going to stop talking about Snowdon by then?
I hope so, yeah. So Princess Margaret's opened this factory in Burnley, and she'd just been opening another factory in Blackburn.
Oh, yeah.
So Ashley Walton, remember our royal correspondent, he rang...
He's not dead, by the way, so be careful what you say about
he's not. He rang the place that I was waiting at, because there were no mobile phones in those days. And he said, Mike, I'm not sure Princess Margaret will even make it to your place to open it. I said, why? He said, she's been on the gin for the last 2 hours. I said, we saw her helped out of the boardroom at this place and put into the back of her official car.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure it'll arrive. Oh, well, let's see. Anyway, about 10 minutes later, the official car arrives, and all the flunkies go up, and they're all standing there like that.
Yeah.
They open the back door of the car, and Princess Margaret fell out onto the cobblestones of Burnley. It was so
face down in the gutter.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody rushed and said, oh, Her Majesty's not well. Put her back in the car.
Yeah.
The
You're
car
going to end up in a
drove
tower, you keep talking like this, you know. I thought you had great respect for the royal family and the Queen.
Well, I have, of
Talking
course
about
I
her
have.
sister.
Yes,
you know, these are not sort of stories you should be revealing to the mass public.
Well, listen, it's just information. It's just what came on the gilded road along the route, if you see what I mean. Yeah.
On the gilded road along the route.
That's right, yeah.
I'm not sure it's just Red Bull you're drinking.